The skills gap, the onus is on both industry and government to partner to identify the areas of greatest need. There's plenty of work that's been done to understand that over the last few years coming out of COVID. We know from AIIA own research and data that cybersecurity is the number one area in demand, closely followed by AI skills, and those skills don't exist in Australia. So we've got a few levers that we can pull. One is to retrain, upskill, bring more people into our sector. So that diversity piece is really, really important. Getting in neuro and gender diversity into our sector. We need to continue to do more of that, get mid-career people in. And also we need to uptrain and reskill existing workforces. So all of those things need to be done. And governments play a role because they control the education sector, whether it be state or federal level.
At Dell Technologies recently, we conducted a survey of 500 IT decision makers who would be playing a significant role in the AI strategy in their organisations. And 76% of them articulated that AI would have a significant, if not transformational, impact on their business. But when you step back and asked, well, what are the potential barriers to success? They also stated AI skills and data skills in general, as well as an overall data culture. So there is more work to do. There is more work to be done overall in our industry around overall AI skills and capabilities. And this is why I think it's so important that we lean into the adoption, that we lean into how are we going to set ourselves up as an economy and as an industry here in Australia to take advantage of this opportunity.
Diversity is really important. What we do know is that we have a skill shortage. So if you're excluding or not targeting 50% of your workforce or 51% of your workforce, then there's an obvious place to ensure that you get those skills that you need for your business from a productivity sense. So that's a very business-focused sort of answer. But it also brings that innovation and diversity of background into an organisation. Australia doesn't generally do well on innovation. I think we lag certain other countries, and we need to bring those different experiences and mindsets into the workplace, and diversity is a really important part of that.
So in my industry, which is purely in cybersecurity, and I support all different types of enterprises, I've been really pleased to see organisations broadening their thinking around the ideal workforce and what the ideal candidates look like. We're already challenging the norms and thinking about our D&I policies and our standards, which is really fantastic. In the world of cybersecurity and therefore closer to home, we've certainly seen through CyberCX, we've got a really robust academy program. The challenge we've set ourselves is how do we create a skills workforce where it's this pretty significant capability gap here in Australia, and yet it's an actual significant need for not just us, but for enterprise, for defence forces, for a number of institutions. So challenging the status quo has allowed us to really think about those who maybe wouldn't have sat in the cookie cutter of what we'd look for in traditional candidates. So we've definitely broadened our workforce by hiring women-only cohorts, and we've been able to reskill them from other career pathways. And we've also looked and explored how we can help neurodiverse candidates also not just participate in the workforce, but truly find that right mixture of skill sets, job structure that helps them flourish. And so I'm really seeing some positive signs in industry that is really embracing of people who are quote unquote different. But I think it'll actually end up becoming our greatest strength.
I think we need to be drawing on a full representation of society. So diversity is critically important on all angles. Whether it be neurodiversity, whether it be diversity from a gender perspective, whether it be, how are we closing a potential digital divide? How are we making sure that we're giving people equal opportunity, whether that be through access to education or whether that be just the representation that sits around the table? I would like to see the Australian government lean even further into investment. I'd like to see them take the lead from other governments around the world where there is investment in skills development. A lot of the focus within Australia is around regulation. As we said, it's extremely important that we are thinking about how to ensure AI is safe, but we need to have a broader lens. We need to be thinking about the opportunity and make sure that, that we talked about the fear factor, we need to ensure that it's not overly focused on regulation, that we're looking for ways to also attract investment. There is significant investment occurring around the world, and you're just not seeing that investment in Australia. From an AIIA perspective, we've actually focused on diversity of the board. At the board level, I'm proud that 9 out of 16 people who sit around the table identify as female. But also equally important from my perspective is First Nations representation, as well as the diversity of the actual companies that sit on the board. So from small business right through to large corporation. Because the reality is when we talk about what is impacting them, they're facing different challenges, whether it be their workforce, their skills. So it's important that we're thinking as broadly as we can as to how we're representing them as an industry.
It's going to be a must-have. I don't think we're in the era of being so prescriptive and singular-minded about what a future workforce looks like. And there's only just more and more creative and cutting-edge thinking to be tapped into, the broader we can make our horizons on what our workforce looks like in the future.